And the first one we're going to discuss is out of the ACC Coastal, and that's North Carolina versus Miami. North Carolina, we've seen some dreadful defense from this team, but we've seen some of the best quarterback play in the country. It is like the flip side of it's like taking Iowa, like we talked about last week, but flipping it upside down.
True,
And
true.
then you see Miami, who is on a bye week, but they have had some issues. I think that's probably to say it lightly, Steve. They lost to Texas A&M in a close matchup, and then they got blown out by Middle Tennessee. Paid them $1.5 million to only have 1.6 yards per play. I can't get over that stat. And I think they made it a joke. And I think that's why I can't get over it. But the reason I want to talk about this battle, this big game here, is because the ACC Coastal is really wide open. Now, I'm not a big fan of divisions inside conferences. I'm glad that the Pac-12 got rid of it. I'm hoping that they do it with the ACC and Big Ten moving forward because I think the best two teams in the conference should play against each other. That's just my viewpoint. But regardless, we're not there yet. And the ACC Coastal has some tough teams in the Coastal with some question marks as well. We just saw what happened to Pitt last week against Georgia Tech. We thought they might be the ones that run through the Coastal this year. Doesn't look that's the case. UNC versus Miami. This could be the battle for the best team in the ACC Coastal. What do you think?
Oh, no, I agree. Pitt has been way too inconsistent on the offensive side of the ball. I mean, you have a vision, many of you, of Pitt really dictating the tone of the game against WVU in the backyard brawl. I mean, a great college football game to start the season, but they are just not very consistent. Fans, I think, are getting a little anxious about some of the play calling. They think maybe perhaps they're not aggressive enough. Now, Duke right now is technically atop the Coastal. Duke is just coming off its first conference win in 13 games. They lost 13 straight ACC games. They're just coming off of that. I don't think that Duke is going to be a player come November, but certainly you can see, glimmers of light there. So maybe we need to start focusing on Duke as we get toward the end of the year, seeing, well, gee, what are they going to be able to do next year? But this year, I think it's going to boil down to North Carolina and Miami. And like you alluded to, North Carolina's given up more than 400 yards, 450 yards per game, 450.8 to be exact.
Ooh.
Yards per game. Miami's putting up 447.5. So when you look at that, you're like, oh my God, it's a lopsided match. But North Carolina's been able to put up some points too. Basically, even in a loss, they scored 61 points.
Yeah, that is something to keep in mind, is that they can still score points. And you look at the spread early here, and this might be something you want to get to early if you are a betting, if you are one of those degens in the betting world. The over-under is 66, and I feel like that is almost a given to slam the over on that one.
Oh, yeah. I don't get that.
Yeah.
I mean, are they is there weather systems that we haven't seen yet that perhaps?
No, it's expected to be 86 and sunny for a nice 4 o'clock game on Saturday. So I'm not sure why that. Miami is favored to win this football game. They're a 4-point favorite, and I think that really directs towards just how bad that North Carolina defense is. We saw it on display against Notre Dame, and Notre Dame just tore apart North Carolina's defense. And this is a Notre Dame team that is not the greatest this year. We saw at the beginning of the year. We knew that, this was going to be, looks like it's going to be a rebuilding team for Marcus Freeman. North Carolina has a fantastic quarterback. May is one of the best quarterbacks in all of the land, in my opinion. He's almost thrown 1,600 yards already, 19 touchdowns, 1 interception. He's really putting up the stats. On the other side, even though they're putting up a lot of points, there seems to be possibly, I don't even know if you want to say possibly, I think there is a quarterback controversy with the Hurricanes. Van Dyke was slated to be the starter in this game. Mario Cristobal went out and said that he will start. However, I believe he's going to be on a very short leash, Steve.
Well, yeah, I mean, again, it's a matter of making mistakes, and we're not talking just turnovers, but making questionable decisions as far as forcing the ball places that perhaps they shouldn't, maybe throwing the ball when there might be some open yardage where they can tuck it. and at least gain something, or at least get back to the line of scrimmage. So it'll be interesting there. The Miami program's another one where I think fans overreact way too quickly. I mean, they still think this is the '80s version of the Miami Hurricanes. That's a totally different brand of football. That those days are gone. Miami's made a nice rebound here, but I think Cristobal really is coming out and saying nobody's job is safe. I don't care who you are. Well, as long as I am coach here, you've got to perform week in, week out, or you're going to be on the bench. So I don't know that it's necessarily a thing of an overreaction to the Middle Tennessee game. I think it's, look, I'm not kidding. You think I'm just playing around at practice? This is a different culture now. You have to come in. You got to play every day. You can't make mistakes. And if you make mistakes or you're not willing to play hard every down, you're going to be on the bench.
I am a really big fan of Carolina's quarterback. Huge fan. I think he can really make some big plays, but I just don't know if that's enough to take UNC in this football game because how dreadful their defense is. Miami had some tough times against Middle Tennessee and did not do a good job offensively against Texas A&M. That was a low scoring game. However, I think their bye week really, I think that the bye week came at a perfect time for the Hurricanes. I believe
Yes.
that their issues were easily more adjustable than what's going on with the Tar Heels. I think the Tar Heels just have a bad defense that is not going away this year. I think that's just a flaw of their roster right now. On the other hand, Miami, I think, just needs some adjustments. And I think that's why I'm going to take the Hurricanes in this football game because I think that the adjustments were made during the bye week. We might still see some flaws. Don't get me wrong. I don't think it's been perfected by Cristobal, but he is a good coach. I think he knows that he can, take care of the job in the bye week and get them ready for the Tar Heels. I'm going to take the Hurricanes with the -4 here and the over. That's where I'm going to slam. I'm not too confident on it. Don't get me wrong, because I think both these teams are pretty close when it comes to competition level, but I just can't trust that Tar Heel defense.
Well, no, I understand. I think we're going to have another barn burner. It would not surprise me if they beat the over by halftime. Honest to God, in this game, it would not surprise me whatsoever, since weather's not going to be a factor. I'm going to take the Tar Heels just for the sake of devil's advocate here. I agree. Giving Cristobal the bye week, I think he's going to have fixed, or at least had a game plan to fix what the ills have been against Middle Tennessee and some of their other struggles here. I think it's going to come down to a big play late, and again, it's going to be quarterback play, and I'm going to go with North Carolina in this one, taking the points. But I still think that they're going to definitely cover as far as getting the points. But I think I'm going to pick them to win on this game.
I think if I'm going to put them in a parlay or actually play them, I think I might leave the spreads alone and just play the over. I think I might, because I feel like that's the safer bet in this entire game, is just play the over, because it's going to be a high scoring football game. Speaking of Duke, just like you talked about it earlier, because they are technically in the lead in the ACC Coastal right now. I'm with you. I think Duke has the opportunity to win this division. They obviously have to play both Miami and North Carolina later this week, or later this season, I believe in 2 weeks and 3 weeks from now, respectfully. But I'm just not so sure, just like you said, that they can continue this pace. Now, they did hold up well. Their only loss against Kansas, who is now ranked by only a touchdown, 8 points. But their other wins, Virginia was a great win, sure. But like you said, that was the first ACC win they've had in a very long time. Let's see what happens this week when Duke faces Georgia Tech, who we thought might be a easy win after the firing of Jeff Collins. Well, last week, Georgia Tech took care of Pitt. So can Georgia Tech be on this gauntlet run and now take care of Duke? Or does Duke finally settle them out? So that's hey, you never know. You never know. This is why I think that's so crazy with these divisions. How there's an opportunity. I mean, just think about this right now, Steve. If Georgia Tech goes in and beats Duke, Georgia Tech will be in the lead of the ACC Coastal after this week. Put that into perspective. That's how crazy these divisions are. Obviously, conference wins are huge, but something like that really puts things in the perspective of why I think that they should get rid of divisions inside of conferences.